Are you guys all ready?
Ready.
Okay. So most of you guys, for the most part, and then for all those that are going to be viewing, have a pretty good idea of who I. Um. Oh. Okay. Can you guys hear and see me? Okay. I want to make sure I'm not having internet issues.
Looks good.
Oh, Sarah left. Oh no. Okay. Okay. So
Oh,
as I was saying, my name is Natalie, and I'm a paranormal investigator. I've been doing this just shy of 18 years, which for me puts me at my start at a really, really early age. I got my official start with the team at the age of 10, and that's because it happened to be a family ran team. And for a lot of our younger generation, a lot of the young adults aren't able to get the full experience and the knowledge that they need to be able to do an investigation properly and professionally until they're at least 17 or 18. And a lot of that comes down to liability issues. But in this instance, for what we're going to be discussing today, is going to be helping explain just how people can get involved and get that start in the way that they need to. So I got that start with the family-owned business, which was known as Path Seekers Paranormal Research Society, also known as PPRS. It has since disbanded, but you can still go on YouTube and find a lot of our videos, which for me is something a little special just because I have a bit of a paranormal glow up watching how I got my start to where I am now. So to be able to do that, I didn't necessarily get the opportunity to jump straight into investigations. We would, visit cemeteries or go out to local places, but it was never an official investigation for me at first, which can be extremely discouraging for a lot of people when they want to get involved. But understanding the safety, the protocols, everything that goes along with it really is an important part before we even get to the investigation. So I started with doing my research, finding out history, visiting the local library, looking at archives, any newspaper clippings that they might have had on this location that we were going. And then after that, I would help with conducting any interviews, phone calls, setting up the investigations for the team, just making sure, kind of as a PR, public relations stance, that the team had everything that they needed before they went in. After that, of course, I wasn't able to do a lot of the official investigations, but what I found to enjoy the most was actually going through all the evidence afterwards. We use a program called Audacity for our EVP recordings, electro voice phenomenon. And with that, we're able to kind of look and see what frequencies we're getting readings on and if there are any voices from the other side coming through. And this really helped a lot because it's a big part of what we do and takes up a lot of time in what we do. So understanding how to work the program and how to spot when there is an EVP and that's not contamination from some other source, like a car going by, wind, pipes rattling around, things like that. So those are all key points that need to be looked at. So the biggest things to start out with are safety. Now, safety plays a role clear across the board, both physically, spiritually, and even on social media. Social media has become such a big part of how we reach people and how we reach clients and how we're reaching you right now. So being able to know and look on YouTube and Facebook and all these other pages and understanding that just because somebody might have a paranormal page just because they have dubbed themselves as a paranormal investigator may not necessarily mean that they have been in it for a long time or that they've had the proper training and experience to be able to conduct an investigation safely. And you really have to look at vetting people that you get involved with. And that goes for clients, it goes for if you're looking for a team to come in and do an investigation, being able to vet them too and understanding their credentials, what they've done, how they've been able to help people. If they even do private residences or if they only go to haunted locations, and really understanding why you want to be involved in the paranormal. If you're looking for the thrill of it and just to get scared and you want things to happen like you see on TV, then the chances are that's not going to happen, at least not to those extents. Um, the investigating is such a small part of what we do, and the things that we see on TV are compiled over days, weeks, months worth of investigation work, and then cut down into enough slices to fill in a 45-minute TV show. And activity doesn't happen from the moment you walk into the moment you walk out all the time, though it can. But understanding that when you come across these channels and these shows, you have to look at it from a scientific standpoint. But the biggest thing for me when I'm looking at other people's evidence is understanding that I was not there, that I don't know the weather conditions. I don't know who all's in the room. I don't know a lot of different elements that could potentially change what I'm seeing and cause me to believe that it is something other than what I'm perceiving it as. So being able to look at that. For the physical side of safety, always carry a medical box with you, even if it's just some of the basic simple things like Band-Aids and whatnot. Our team specifically, we have a lot of medical experience amongst our members. So our kit is actually a toolbox, and it's got a load of different items that you could use in the potential event that something bad happens. We stumble around in the dark a lot, and with that, it makes it really hard if you only have a flashlight or if you don't have any lights at all to see where you're going. And if you don't know your location very well, which I recommend trying to do a daytime walkthrough so you can spot any potential trip hazards or anything that could cause you to get injured, and be consciously aware of those. Trespassing is another big one. Trespassing is a big no-no for our team. I don't condone it. You need to be able to reach out to whoever owns the house, whoever owns the property. I even go as far as reaching out to the local police department to make sure that I have a good rapport with them, so that this way, if I'm going on an investigation to a house that's normally vacant, I can let them know. And this way, if people start making phone calls into the police department stating that, there's flashlights, somebody's in this house, it's normally empty, they'll know that we're there. And it's going to prevent from a lot of problems, but it's also going to prevent from you getting in trouble with the law. And it just makes a really good rapport with the police department, so that if something was to happen, they know where to go, they know where you're at. And then the next part of safety is also going to be on the spiritual level. And I will dive into these topics a little bit more as we go and throughout the rest of this year and our other workshops. But the spiritual protection can come down to, one, your faith, whether you believe in a God, multiple gods, any kind of higher being, whatever it is that brings you comfort and peace and you're able to focus on, is going to be a big part of it, because you need to be strong in your beliefs. You need to be strong in how you feel and view things, because going into a location that has activity, energy, spirits, they can affect us in all kinds of different ways. Sometimes they can things. Sometimes they can affect us negatively, either by emotions or by physically getting ill. things along those natures. So being able to have something to fall back on, for me, a lot of it comes down to both meditation and spiritual practices. We try to do a prayer before and after our investigations. We do sage cleansings on ourselves, our equipment, even our vehicles. We've done that before. So being able to do that, we also make protection vials for our investigators and for the public to be able to have with them. And they could be customized for whether if you want a cross or a sigil or whatever brings you that comfort. Having that on you helps with that. Understanding your crystals and your stones, knowing how those can affect the energy field, how they can affect any kind of ritual that you might be doing when it comes to your spirituality. So, understanding those things are all very important to what we do. And the other part is going, as I stated earlier, is going to be on your research. Research takes up probably half of what you do, quarter of what you do, give or take. It's a big part of what we do. And the investigation itself is a very small piece. It's only about 25% of everything. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to gather information for you to be able to conduct your investigation. And every investigator is going to be slightly different on how they use that information. When you're dealing with people who are sensitives, psychics, mediums, all that, they may not want the history. They might not want in their information because the power of suggestion can be very strong. So by giving that, that automatically puts that in, and it makes their accounts and the things that they're experiencing to be looked at as invalid or persuaded for their opinions to be that way. And it's a lot easier to do validation through their abilities when you know the information and they don't, but they're giving you accurate details, accurate information that does match up. So that's a big part of it, and it goes for when you have your own abilities. If you're the psychic, being able to know that you are communicating, that you're channeling, and being able to speak with these spirits and then have validation also helps when you're trying to work on your own abilities. The biggest questions that I've received so far really come down to how do you get into it? Because you can do all the research, you can do all the TV shows and the podcasts, but how do you get your leg in the door? And by attending workshops like this, being a part of what we call the para unity or the paranormal community, being a part of that is really going to help you make those connections and find the individuals that you're able to learn from and have like a mentor. So by going to paracons, going to open investigations that teams in your area put on, different events, these workshops, whether they're in person or virtually like this one, these are great ways to be able to ask questions and get to know the community. Now, for when you're doing the investigation, for me, you really have to go in with an open mind. And this is where a lot of people can tend to look down on the younger generations for this because we tend to have our imaginations. You know, it's instinct, it's natural for us. But when you're doing an investigation, and especially if you're doing a private residence investigation, you have to go in with a scientific mindset. You always have to try and disprove the paranormal before ever calling it the paranormal. So if you're hearing, the floorboards, are they loose? Is it an old house? Are there pipes that are potentially moving? The expanding or contracting of the walls when there's extreme weather, those can be a part in it. The furnace, if it's on, electricity to a home can also affect your readings if they're EMFs, electromagnetic field readings, looking to see what those meter readings are can really help play a point in figuring out, is this something paranormal or not. I like to try and do a base reading on my location when I first get there and figure out what points have large spikes of EMF. Is it the microwave? Is it wires in the wall? Is it a lamp? The TV? All these things can play a part in it. But EMF on its own can play a part into what somebody is experiencing in their home or at a location. High levels of EMF can cause migraines, dizziness, headaches, things like that. They can make you physically nauseous at times, uh, feeling like out of your body, kind of out of sorts. These are all effects of high EMF. So being able to decide if it is paranormal or not is your first step. When you're also doing these investigations, you have to remember respect. These spirits, based on your beliefs and how you look at things, they were human beings at once. They were living, breathing human beings like us, and they deserve just as much respect. You don't know if they've passed because maybe they were murdered or abused, something along those lines, but you also don't know necessarily what you're dealing with at the time. And to show respect, you're going to get a much more potentially positive response than if you go in there, yelling, cursing, degrading these spirits, push me, shove me, you can't do it kind of attitude is only going to make things more hostile and negative, and that puts not just you, your team, and anybody else there or who could potentially come in danger. So it all ties back into safety, and every decision we make really does come back down to safety. So those are always concerns that we have. um, Based on your religion, kind of like with the spiritual protection with the safety, your religion and spirituality can play a big part in what we do, and it also plays a part in whether you believe what you're experiencing is real or not. And that's okay. Everybody is entitled to their opinions, they're entitled to their beliefs, but nobody should be able to look down or dismiss how somebody is feeling or how they wish to have something done because of their religious and spiritual beliefs. A lot of clients come from all walks of life, which is why I really enjoy the team that I have, because we do as well. So we're able to customize and tailor the cleansings, the savings, the blessings, the prayers, everything to their belief system, and be able to reach out to the churches, the synagogues, wherever, to be able to have them come in as well. And that gives us an opportunity to provide them with the help and the comfort and the security that they need. But it also shows that we are doing everything in our power to help them. So, TV versus reality. I am just as guilty as most for very much so enjoying, and yet sometimes ridiculing my TV shows. Um, I mean, from Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, you name it. I've seen them, I've watched them, and while there's a lot that I really like, there's also a lot that I don't. And understanding that what you see on TV is not necessarily what it's going to be like in person. And knowing that their reactions and the evidence that they're collecting may not be 100% factual, or in some form or another dramatized, which doesn't mean that they're not good investigators, because that's not the case. They very much so are potentially very good investigators. But when you start mixing viewers and social media and TV into it, it becomes a whole different ballpark. And you start messing with ratings and TV viewings and all the things that The people who are not in it for the science want the thrill. They want the scare, especially around Halloween. We see a lot of it come up, and a lot of people want to do these ghost hunts because they want to get scared. They want something thrown at them. They want to be pushed and scratched. And while those things do happen, they don't always happen. So being able to understand that just because you're paying to go on an investigation doesn't mean you're going to have activity. Some nights a location can be very quiet, and the next night they'd be super active. It really is a hit or miss. So understanding that first and foremost is extremely important. When you're reviewing the evidence, like with Audacity, as we continue to go into a more modern day technology that we use on investigations, specifically camcorders and photography, digital photography, people have become very, very good at manipulating photographs, manipulating shadows, lighting, placements of objects, double exposure. All these different things can cause a normal photo to appear as something paranormal. And knowing the signs, knowing how to spot what could potentially have been altered versus unedited, is something that takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, and a keen eye for. So even I am not 100% mastered at that. Um, but over the years, I have gotten better at some of that. And that comes with time, that comes with practice. And when you first get involved, that is everything about what you are going to be learning is through practice and through watching and observing and asking those questions. So when we do our investigations, and again, everything tying back into safety, for my team specifically, I am against using Ouija boards. They are not allowed on investigations. Now, what somebody chooses to do on their own in their free time, that is their prerogative. That is up to them on how they want to do things. But understanding that when you open that door, you are opening it blindfolded, and you don't know if there is a cute cat on the other side or a angry monster that's going to come out. You just don't know, and it's a risk. And when you quickly see it, when you are then going to make contact with a certain person, we have tricksters. We have entities that will portray themselves as children or loved ones, when in reality they're trying to get you to lower your guard. Doesn't mean that is always the case, but it is a Russian roulette when you use Ouija boards or other forms of divination and communication to try and bring that in. You just don't know. So having your faith, I have used a Ouija board in the past. There's probably only 3 people in the entire world I will ever use them with, because they do know what they're doing. They are not open and susceptible to being led on to potentially be talking to someone or something. It very much comes from a scientific standpoint. And we will talk about Ouija boards and all of that later on in this year. I believe November is when that workshop is scheduled. So when we talk about these things, we'll kind of dive deeper into it. When the youth is getting involved, they are susceptible to a lot of things. But the younger generation, the children specifically, have not quite been compromised, so to speak, in the sense that very young children who see spirits, who speak to spirits, haven't been conditioned to believe that they don't exist, to believe that they're just fairy tales. And they're very much not. Yes, children have imaginary friends, but not always is it imaginary. So next month, we will talk a lot more about children and their abilities, and how families can be more involved in understanding what their children are going through, but also making it easier for them when they're experiencing these things. Because even as children, and some even as adults, we get scared of the dark. We don't know what's lurking behind door number two. So, being able to feel comfort and to understand the situation at hand is going to give you a leg up in what we do. So, I want the youth to be able to reach out to individuals like myself, to the Warren Foundation, to other credible teams out there who have the experience to answer your questions, to help you get your start so that you're learning how to conduct investigations professionally, how to ask the right questions, how to look for things that could be not paranormal, even though they may seem like it at first. How to debunk evidence is a big part in it. So I am hoping that this year I will have some upcoming events where the youth will get the opportunity to do those investigations with me, to get their hands in there, to learn what it is that they need to learn to be able to do this properly. Because you cannot go into somebody's home and, as a paranormal investigator, take photos, go, okay, it's haunted, and then walk out the door. You have to understand that these are people's lives. And not only are you dealing with spirits who may be in need, they may need help crossing over. They, the reassurance from investigators to know that they are going to get the help that they need. And I will tell you now, there are teams out there that will charge for their services. We do not. Um, I don't see why I should make a profit off of somebody who's in need because they're being terrorized or are uncomfortable, don't feel safe in their own home. But every team is different. The only thing I will say is that you look into who you're asking to come into your home. Look into who you're planning to work with. When you want a mentor, ask those questions, but don't feel like you have to only be mentored from one person, because there are so many different methods, so many different theories out there. And as investigators, we're all a little different on that, on how we conduct things, on how we look at things. And over time, you will find your own way of viewing things, on how you want to see things. So being able to do that will really give you a leg up. Are there any questions so far? Okay. Then, Eve. Oh goodness. Okay. Okay. So, if my internet would work properly. Questions. I want to know what you guys think and what you guys want to learn about. I want to be able to give you guys the tools and the resources that you need to be able to move forward. And eventually, as young investigators, you will be taking our places. You will eventually be at the point in which we are. And when we're no longer here, we need somebody to continue to carry on that legacy, to be able to help people when they're in need, because this problem is not going to go away. And unfortunately, because of individuals not knowing how to properly conduct themselves, how not to protect themselves, we will always be in this line of work. And it is not for the money. We don't make money off of this. So it is very much so a passion, beyond a hobby. This is a passion for a lot of us, and we are protective over it. But we want to make sure that you are safe and that everybody around you is safe. So I have a couple different books that you guys can look into. Um, some books are more controversial than others, but I want you guys to do this research. I want you to look into these things because these individuals have really paved the way for what we do in a lot of ways. Um, and it is up to you to do as much research and to learn about all the different theories out there on how we communicate with the paranormal, how we experience it. Everything from, residual energy versus an intelligent haunting compared to dealing with, a space time continuum. Those are such drastic topics, but they are topics that we discuss in this realm of the paranormal. So, a big one, and this book's a little tattered. I got it secondhand, but one of the very influential individuals would be Harry Price. So being able to read this book, and it is Harry Price Ghost Hunter, uh, Library of the Occult. This is a really good read. It's old, very old, but it is a very good read. Hans Holzer, I think is how I pronounce that. He's another good one. Do your research on him and look at these two individuals and what they have contributed to the paranormal. And I think that gives you a really great start. You can look at books from your local areas. This one is Haunted Kansas. Oh, there we go. You have Haunted Kansas. And my screen does not want to cooperate. There we go. You have that. You've got ghost towns that tell you about that. The Civil War. Anything along those. And then, as controversial as this one may seem, this is another good book to read. Whether you agree with it or with the individual alone is really rather nor here nor there. But it gives some really good resources and some really good things. Everything from, Ed and Lorraine Warren, with me being a part of the Warren Legacy Foundation and being able to help so many more people and having so many more resources to provide, it really gives me the opportunity to make sure that when I'm helping and teaching and mentoring, that I'm doing it right. But understanding their methods and their beliefs and how they conducted their investigations and helped a lot of people really plays a big part in it. Knowing how to ask questions, how to ask the right questions, how to debunk, all these different things play a part in it. So books like this are a really good place to start. Other than that, if you guys have any questions, any concerns, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And if I don't have the answers, I will put you in contact with somebody who does. This will be our last workshop through Facebook. We will still be promoting them here, but we are going to be transferring over to our Patreon page. And where you can sign up for that, you'll get special content. We have some upcoming investigations that you'll be able to get behind the scenes, some live video while we're there. You'll be able to do Q&A sessions, all kinds of different things that we're in the process of bringing to you guys. So I really hope that you guys go and check that over. Our tiers are $3 a month, $5, and I think $10 for the top tier. So really cheap, easy. It's once a month, but we will be continuously posting on there from this point. But we really want to see you guys continue to keep communicating here on Facebook and our YouTube channel. If you haven't checked that out, I would go over there and some of our stuff that we're still building it up. I just moved out here to Kansas a year ago, so we have been reestablishing a new team out here, but we also have a team in Missouri. So being able to follow along as we start uploading a lot more of our evidence, we'll be able to share that with you and so many other things. You can find us on, I believe, Instagram. We've got a TikTok that we share. The Warren Files also are on our page there as well. Other than that, if anybody has any questions, feel free to let me know. And I will see you guys next month. If I get a lot of questions, I may go ahead and do a part 2 for this, just so that I can answer those specific questions. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys later. Bye.